Hello to our beloved patrons. Thank you for subscribing to our podcast. I honestly believe you have got a solid return for your investment in this bonus episode because we have a wonderful guest, Rueben Kaye, who is on in Daniel Sloss's absence. I interview Rueben. It is like an interview because he's going through so much at the minute. He's going through so much controversy. And we're chatting about it, but he unpacks the issue with so much humour, so much intelligence, and so much charisma, and it's such an interesting, insightful conversation that we've just had, and it has everything. This episode, it's dirty, it's filthy, it's silly, it's fun, and we even end the podcast and we start leaving the hotel and we're chatting and we'll laugh about something and we're like, right, let's go back on and press record and talk about this. So there's like a false summit where you think the podcast's over, we've done all the plugs, we say goodnight, and then we'll come back on and just do like a Marvel after the credits bit where we talk about the King's coronation and all that shit. So enjoy this episode. I hope you have as much fun as I did recording it. Rueben is an absolute legend and it's been a delight chatting to him for the last hour or so. Go and enjoy it.
Sloss and Humphries on the road.
Muggins and cream and muggins, straight thuggin', living the dream.
That's our intro.
Fucking muggles.
Tickling the clit inside your head that makes you laugh. They said it can't be done.
Rueben,
Hey.
thank you for joining me on the podcast, mate.
It's a pleasure.
I've known you just like a couple of days, like 3 or 4 days, but we've worked together non-stop since we met.
It's been lovely.
It's been nice, hasn't
Yeah,
it?
it has.
So we met at the Comedy Store, done a couple of gala shows out in Perth, practically touring together.
It's so funny. I think there's an immediacy of when you're working with a comedian. It's not just like, oh, we're working together. You see each other in quite vulnerable places just before you go on stage, just after you come off stage, and also while you're on stage. It's one of those things, I think, for comedians, it's a way of masking who you are with your gags, but it also amplifies exactly who you are in terms of what gags you make, what taste level. And it's that interesting thing when you're with comedians. I feel it a lot, of knowing that other comedians are also listening and watching the set with scrutinizing eyes.
There's a vulnerability about that, isn't there?
Yeah.
Because I'll sometimes stand at the back and even if I love the comic that's on, pull apart the set.
Yeah.
And you'd be a fool to think that's not happening to you.
It's
At some
terrifying.
point.
One time we were at the factory in Sydney and it was me, Cassie Workman, Geraldine Hickey, Rosie Delaney, AJ Lamarck, like pretty great names. Geraldine Hickey, Cassie Workman, two people I look up to hugely. I'd only just started working with Rosie Delaney, but she's got this fantastic gag.
She's the only one of those guys I haven't met.
Oh, really?
Rosie, I've never seen Rosie.
Trans comic, and she walked out on stage and says, you can try give up smoking. I'll butcher this gag. You can try give up smoking. You can try giving up cigarettes. You can try giving up dairy. But has anyone here ever tried to give up male privilege? It's really great. It's really good. But we bombed. I think everyone found the room really hard. Very small room. Everyone was having a rough time.
In what city was it in?
Sydney at the factory. And but the laughs were coming from backstage.
Yes.
Suddenly you heard like Geraldine Hickey laughing or Cassie Workman guffawing, and those are two comics with pretty high standards.
Yeah.
And suddenly we all realised we were kind of performing for the other comics more than the
You're
audience.
playing to the back of the room.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the salvage, isn't it? It's like, I can take this gig down in flames or I can make the comics laugh.
Yeah.
They're the two options.
It's like making the crew laugh.
Yeah.
You know? There was a great moment. Brody Snook had a joke at that gig we were at, Shazamming a song at a funeral, and it didn't get a great response, but I lost it.
You come up to me after that and you were like, that's just 3 words that go great together. Shazam, song, funeral.
Yeah, perfect. I don't need any more from a joke.
Yeah.
It's because I'm a dirty comic. I work a lot in, shit, piss, cock, bum, poo, whatever. When I find someone who's made a joke that's clean, that's really good,
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck.
Love it. That's why I love that guy, John Cruikshank.
Yeah.
He's just got such fun, silly, victimless, clean jokes.
I know. I have so much envy.
And I don't think I could write one of them if I tried.
I don't know. I think your wife comes off really great in that bit you do about
Oh, man, if you met my wife, she is the most dignified, wholesome, beautiful woman.
What does she do when you do that set?
Just make sure that her mother never sees it. Essentially, she's just like head in her hands. Just look, I have to give him full creative license. I can't hold him back on what he wants to talk about.
That's lovely.
I'm behind this wholeheartedly. But let's just put my head down and hope not to be recognised in the crowd while this bit happens.
Because my family all have opinions and notes on my act continuously.
Do they actually?
Oh, yeah.
Do you get grief for it or not?
Yeah. My mum, I had to take a strict boundary of like 24 hours after a show, you cannot give me any notes. Because she would come up and be like, has everyone told you you're great? Fantastic. You do this little thing in the second half. I think you should switch it to this part of the show. I think this joke belongs here. I think
Direction.
Direction.
Oh, that's different.
Yeah.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
welcome.
Is
right?
it?
Yeah,
No,
I think
no.
if it's good direction.
I don't have I'm not good at being told what to do.
No.
So I'm like, get away from it. It gets my hackles
why
up.
are you trying to put my chaos in order?
Correct. But also, like, I admire people who are much more easily collaborative. And they go, oh, yeah, what do you think? And they don't have that, like, boundary of being wounded.
Yeah.
First thing that happens to me is I take it personally.
Uh-huh.
And I'm quite sensitive.
I'm so vulnerable.
I am.
Why would you get me now?
Exactly right.
Right when I've just exposed myself on stage and you just see the open flesh wound and you just in with a salt.
That's it. That's exactly it.
Yeah. So I try not to censor myself at all. Like when it comes to like my family, my wife, my mother, my father, like they come see my shows always, and I don't want to censor myself.
No.
I'd rather they be upset than me compromise.
And have they ever been upset?
Well, there was one time I did change the words of something, right? I've got this bit where I'm a teenager and I fell out with my mother and she's not telling me off, but she's doing housework angrily. And she's angrily hoovering the stairs, right? And even though she's saying nothing, I can hear her internal monologue screaming in my direction. And she's just like, look what you made me do. You made me run on the carpet with outdoor footwear on. And I just go out and unpack the whole thing where she's like, nobody wears shoes on the carpets in this house. I've got to keep it looking like a show home the whole time. Like, even though we're going to live here for 2 decades as a family, it's got to look like nobody's ever lived here. It's in case we invite guests, but we never invite guests because they make a mess, right? And she's going through that, and the conclusion she comes to, she's like, actually, the more I think about this, the more I think I'm doing it for my own mental illness. And that was the line all through the show. And then my mother came to watch. And I was like, I can't do it. This is when I shouldn't have been doing it in the first place.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I can't do it. So I changed it. The more I think about this, the more I think I'm only doing it for my own OCD. That's what I changed the line to.
Sure.
And my mother come up to us afterwards, like, I just had a banging show, right? She just watched us kill for an hour at the Fringe. And she just come up and went, do you think I've got an OCD? And I'm like, oh, I'm glad you went here yesterday.
Yeah, right. Because at least you go, no, it's just a joke. It's just a punchline. It's just a punchline. But mental illness, there's no way to hide that. You know?
And also, it's like everybody, like, that's like Natalie in my set that you saw, my mother in the set that I done then, the characters.
Yeah.
It's not quite them.
No, I know for a fact that I don't think my stepmom's going to listen to this, but I love my stepmom. I'm really lucky. I've got amazing stepmom.
You didn't want her to hear that.
I know, right? No, but
I know she's not going to listen to this, right?
I've got some jokes.
Love her.
I do. She's not gonna, just in case. But I do, and we get along great. But there are some jokes that if she's in the audience, I'll pull from the set about my dad, who died 6 years ago, because there's a lot of tropes. There's a lot of tropes in queer comedy about fathers, you know, and I work within those tropes. But I know that if she were in the audience, she would find those upsetting.
Yeah.
And, you know, out of sensitivity for that, I'll pull those jokes
Yeah.
when people like that are in the audience.
Yeah, people have a different boundary for it's disrespectful, don't they?
Correct. Well,
Well-
I don't, it's a difference between like disrespectful and she wouldn't find it disrespectful. I could feel that she would just go, oh, that's upset her, because it brings back painful memories and things. She loved my dad. I love my dad.
Yeah, but you just deal with it in different ways.
with it in
You
different
can
ways.
use humour and stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas she'd rather be somber.
Exactly right. And also, I guess there's also an element of, you know, 70-year-old middle-class women, my audience, or is like the queer community and the stories that we hold in the queer community part of my audience. And the answer is yes, there's both. So I tell different stories for both.
Yeah. It's decorum, isn't it? That's what's strange about this job is
Right.
I operate in decorum. If I'm at my wife's parents' house, you'll not see me swearing. One might slip out, but it's an accident,
Yeah.
right? And I hold myself in a different way.
It's-
And then when I'm on a stag do with my friends, you'll see a completely different side of me. And then every now and again, both those people are in the same room.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, both of them people are me.
This is why I do not let my friends meet.
Nah, do you
I
not?
hate it. I get so anxious when my friends meet because I do feel like I put slightly different versions of myself on within different friendship groups, and when they meet, they start talking about me, and that's when I go, oh God.
So, some of your friends really respect you, and some of them have seen you at your worst.
Yeah.
And they're just ruining any respect you've gained with that group of friends.
Well, all the different stages in the friendship, some of them have met me being like, oh yeah, he's the planner, he's the one who cooks, he's like the nurturer. And I go, no, he's the hot mess who we had to pull out of the middle of the road.
Yeah,
like,
people cook for him. People organise for him.
He doesn't know how to do anything.
That's so funny. I like your opinion counts for something amongst a certain group of friends, and then the meet your friends where you've fucked up with your opinion too many times.
Yeah,
you've showed too much hypocrisy. You've changed on a dime, and that your opinion means dirt to them friends. And then they meet the ones who think that you've got wisdom.
Yeah. We have a bunch of friendship groups, and some of us are like, oh well, he's the wise owl of the group, and I'm like, no, he's the one who's functioning with oral gonorrhea half of the time.
Yeah. And then they've got to meet a church group.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really get off on my friends meeting each other and getting along.
That's nice.
Like, I love that. I've got like friends from Newcastle that live out in Liverpool, Manchester, and comedians that stay at their house when they go to that,
nice.
when they're gigging in that area. And they don't need me. I didn't have to facilitate it. I didn't middleman them hanging out for the weekend. They've just met on various occasions that I've been to, and I just look and just go, look at that friendship blossoming.
That's
between
lovely.
two people from completely different walks of life. The fuck was that? That was like a doorbell.
Do you have a doorbell?
I don't know. Was it your phone? Did your phone let off some kind of alert?
Oh yeah, it was. That was my Virgin Australia app telling me it's time to check in. Not a plug. Sorry, I'll turn that on silent. I'm a professional.
Yes, it's all right. We had Bart Freeburn on the podcast the other day, and his heart rate monitor went off 5 times, saying his blood sugar. His blood sugar spiked. I think he was having a diabetic coma, and he was just styling it out. He's like, "Oh no, I'm really sorry about this going off."
He doesn't just slowly like bring out a syringe and start tourniqueting his thigh and just going, I just need to give myself a little shot.
Yeah, amputates his toe.
That's fantastic.
So I wanted to talk to you about everything you told me last week.
Yeah.
About your dramas.
I've had so much drama.
Dramas. Because me and Daniel talk on this podcast a lot about cancel culture being a bit of a myth. It sells tickets. No one really gets cancelled, and just like people are like trying to get cancelled. And then something really peculiar happened with you. The right, who defends free speech and try and make it so that like nobody can be deplatformed. They managed to actually physically deplatform you.
Yeah.
Can we unpack this?
Sure. So for anyone who's, I just went on The Project. The Project is a TV show here in Australia that started off as a sort of a larrikin news parody show, a bit like The MASH in the UK.
Can you explain to me the word larrikin? Is this an Aussie term or just a word I don't know? But I've seen it a few times since I've been here.
Larrikin. It's sort of like, he's a prankster, he's a bit of a drunk, he's maybe a bit of a public nuisance. It's part of the Australian worshipping of the outlaw.
Yeah, okay.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's a bit, he's just a bit of a mess. He's what we would call problematic, but adorably so. Right?
So we're like larrikins.
Yeah, we like a larrikin. Like,
Is larrikin a noun? It's a person, or is a larrikin like
no, it's a noun and possibly an adjective.
Right.
But I would assume that like comedians would be called larrikins, like Sloss or you would be larrikins. Adorable, cheeky.
Up to misdeeds, getting away with it.
That's it, exactly. And it started as, this show, The Project, started as this sort of slightly lefty, let's say, humanist news parody TV show, and was really popular. And then it's transformed, and its audience has transformed to a slightly more mainstream, or incredibly mainstream, and increasingly slightly conservative, I would imagine, audience. And as such, the material on it has also sort of, the edges of it have been a bit dulled, in my personal opinion.
So they kind of changed to where the audience was coming from and leaned towards it, rather than just sticking true to who they are and letting the audience develop. Did they?
Yeah, I think it all just sort of. I think as TV became more risk averse, I think you can see that in a lot of television programming. As TV audiences have dwindled, they've gone, well, we don't have the finances or the resources to take big swinging risks, or make edgy stuff that could result in less viewership. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's become a bit less risky. And I was booked on it, and on it, I told a joke that I've been telling for 10 years.
Yeah.
It's one of the first jokes I've ever told on stage. And I think I told it in London in 2011.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And it was did you knock the cobwebs off it because it was Easter and it's time for this joke?
Basically, I had been, we've been trying to get some jokes on TV for my own, I just want to, if it's on TV, I want to get this joke on it. I think it'll be funny.
Yeah.
Right.
And in an age where you can clip stuff and get it on socials and anything that you can package in a short form and put online.
Absolutely. So so the project booked me. I met with the producers. We went over everything, and then we were on air. And I said the joke, and the joke is, I was talking about hate I receive online, because I did this thing with Channel 4 where I interviewed kids, and it's one of the biggest things Channel 4 has ever done digitally or broadcast. And within 24 hours, I think it had 10 to 20 million views, and it's
amazing,
huge, and that was before the pandemic, so now it's massive. But because it was a drag queen sitting in front of kids, a whole bunch of right-wing American sites got on, called me groomer, all this kind of stuff. And I just said on the project, because they asked me, what's the reaction to your work? Because it is very, they use the term naughty, which I think is hilarious on an adult TV program to be using the words naughty. That tells you a lot about the mentality.
Yeah.
Oh, it's naughty. Ooh, spanks. Ooh.
Yeah, because I'd hate, you've seen the material I did about my wife. I'd hate it if people called me naughty for that.
Naughty.
Naughty.
This is, what are we, the Lollipop Guild?
Yeah, well,
shut the fuck up.
Carry on camping.
It is. And what it is it's focusing. And I said to them, this is a funny thing that I think. On the program, they said to me, what's it like working in risque material? And I said, well, it's interesting working in taboo subjects, because working in filth and politics and religion, etc., it's interesting because it gives people the opportunity to think about what's really offensive, the words you're using or the subjects you're addressing. And that is where I love to go, right, here's a dick joke and here's a joke about the current political system. Smash them together and let's see which one you're really offended by and why are you really offended by a dick joke more than you are offended by jokes about, the fact that there's more food banks than McDonald's in the UK right now.
Aye.
And that leads to why are we so obsessed with filth as taboo when really filth is about sex.
And also filth is the global language.
Correct.
It's there's nowhere in the world you can go where nobody, anything that's bodily function.
Correct.
We can all relate to it.
Let's just say in the last couple of things, like Nick Kroll, who's one of the, I think, most fantastic comics, the topper of his comedy special is a story about shitting himself.
Great.
Fantastic. And it's similar in a whole bunch of different comics. Their topper is a story about them shitting themselves. So I said, first off, when you're working in filth, it allows you, the audience, to decide what's more offensive, the language you're using or the ideas that you're conjuring up or discussing. And then they said, what's the reaction? And I said, well, the audience loves it. But online, I tend to get a lot of hate, specifically from religious people, saying that if I don't accept Jesus' love, I'll burn in hell, which is a ridiculous statement because I love Jesus. I love any man who can get nailed for 3 days straight and come back for more.
Amazing.
Fine.
Great joke.
Standard. And they laughed.
So you did the joke on the show.
I did the joke. Everyone laughed. And then overnight, it all started to gain momentum. We started to see articles come out. We started to see messages on the project and on my social media.
And was all of it outrage?
No. Lots of it was hilarious. Lots of it was love. It was a small amount of outrage, and it started to grow. it started to grow as the Daily Mail articles came out.
Yeah. So I guess the Daily Mail is the same over here as it is back home.
Absolutely.
It's loaded language. Not just giving people the news, but pushing them in the direction.
It was all queer comic makes disgusting jokes.
Yeah.
It was queer comic takes name of Lord in vain. It was, blasphemes or makes crude Jesus joke.
Yeah. And you know in your heart that it's an agenda from them, because if Daniel Sloss, if Ricky Gervais done any of the things they've said about religion...
Oh, it's not about the joke. It's never about the joke. It's about who's telling it.
They are looking to bring you down because you're wearing makeup and you're flamboyant. And
I also think there's another thing that happened, which is interesting. I think it was it was in the middle of Mardi Gras that it happened. And I just think there's a lot of people, a lot of homophobes who don't want to say anything during Mardi Gras about queer people.
Yeah.
But when if one of us comes for religion, a lot of it was, you demand that we have to respect you or tolerate you, and then you come for our religion. I'm like, no, we just want safety. Queer people just don't want to be killed in the street. And if the worst thing that you think is going to happen is I can make a joke about a small subsect of your ideology, that's not the same. They're not equitable. And
also, it's making fun of religion.
Yeah.
It's there to be made fun of.
Absolutely.
It's
if it wasn't so absurd.
It's everybody has their own little fairy tales.
Exactly.
And the rest of us live in a world where people are fucking so stuck to their fairy tales that surely we can make fun of it a little bit.
If your religion is 2,000 years old, surely it's robust enough to take a little poking from a poof, in Australia on a TV show. And again,
robust enough to take a poking from a puff.
Yeah.
Such a good sentence. I just want to appreciate it.
And a lot of the hate that I receive is always religious, but a lot of it is also, why can't you be a real comedian like Ricky Gervais? Which means they love Ricky Gervais. I haven't listened
to a word he said.
No. But what it means is, again, a straight man can say whatever the fuck he wants and then claim to be a victim. Mm-hmm. Well, you can't say anything anymore. But when a poof does it, someone who's visibly queer raises their head above the parapet and doesn't want to be the butt of a joke, but wants to make a joke, then...
silence that voice immediately.
They want us to become invisible. And sorry, queer people have spent too much time being invisible. And to be fair, there are cave markings representing queer people from 9,600 BCE. So we predate any idea of religion.
And Alexander the Great?
Absolutely.
He was robust enough to take a poking from a puff?
Exactly, and conquered half of Europe. And that's next on my agenda. And a leather skirt.
Yes. Oh, so this escalated, and you had a show on at the Enmore.
Yep.
Amazing venue. It's
Great venue.
One of my favourites.
A dream venue.
And there was... I don't want to say too much because I don't know what you're allowed to talk about.
Look, but even I don't really know what I'm allowed to talk.
If you want, you got intelligence that it wasn't going to be safe to do the show.
And it wasn't present in any other state in Australia, but it was just because of this. This is also interesting. So there's a small subject, and I think this is interesting because the timeline of this is very clear to me. I made the joke in Mardi Gras, so people who were looking for a way to push back against queer people found a target because I had come after religion. Can
I ask what Mardi Gras is? Because I noticed that, the necklaces and girls gone wild. That's what I see Mardi Gras as.
It's like that, but for queer people. It's Sydney Gay and Lesbian Mardi Gras. Pride.
Yeah.
It's our Pride. And it was World Pride and Sydney Gay and Lesbian Mardi Gras. And World Pride happens every 2 years at a different city around the world. So it was huge. World Pride in Sydney was amazing. I was performing at the Opera House. It was incredible.
So all of these right-wing hate groups are already bristly and why am I...
Yeah.
Even though when they think of religion, that's something that's just is on top of everybody all the time. There's religion.
Yeah,
think about it all the time. Christmas and Easter and do all these things. And the minute you just go, hey, our thing, they're like, no, quiet.
It's very funny to be told that queer people are sex obsessed when religious people have been shoving it down our throats for centuries in every marketplace as well. It's not just, in churches, we just keep it to churches. No, it's part of society. It's part of capitalism now. And that's why when queer people enter capitalism, it's such a strong position as we are now.
And isn't Easter a fertility festival?
Absolutely.
Well, eggs and bunnies and...
It's all, but like all the Bible is about sex. Sex and blood is exactly what the Bible is built on.
Yeah, it should be a lot cooler than it is.
Well, didn't you see that amazing thing in, I think it was Texas or perhaps Florida, where they're banning books because they're too licentious? And then someone said, well, if you're banning books based on sex and violence, we should ban the Bible.
Yeah. They ended up burning Bibles off their own.
Wouldn't that be the fucking
Yeah.
best? The irony, never been the purview of the bigot. And so I do the joke in Mardi Gras, all these homophobes who want queer pushback, want to push back on it, find a target because I've come after religion, I've stepped out of line. There was a boxer called the Spaniard who made a very homophobic post during Mardi Gras calling us faggots and pedos, got dropped by his management.
Is this a professional boxer?
Professional boxer.
Yeah.
He then saw the project or got latched onto me as sort of a cause celeb to gain clout and marshalled all of his followers going, this Rueben Kaye, it's a double standard. And these guys, and it's all part of specifically based around the Maronite Christian population in Sydney, who are at the centre of the Christian Lives Matter movement.
That title, like, why does it have racial connotations?
Oh, it absolutely does.
Why? Like, I mean,
it feels like it does.
The question
right?
is why does it? We know why.
We know why. We know exactly what that three little words. It's like, what is it? Shazam song funeral.
Yeah.
You get it. Christian lives matter. And they started. I was doing the gig at the Enmore at the Laugh Out Proud Gala before my solo show at the Enmore, and 50 men in black from the Christian Lives Matter movement charged down Enmore Road around Newtown chanting the Lord's Prayer and intimidating queer businesses outside while I was performing. Then they started doing a prayer circle, in inverted commas, outside my agent's office, waving crosses, chanting the Lord's Prayer with a huge banner saying, Rueben, come to us, we want to forgive you. And this was all reported, it's not just me, it's reported on the 7:30 report on ABC. And they all have prior form, or a lot of them have prior form, and there are intimidation tactics through my social media and to my agents.
What do they look like as a group? Are they young? Are they old? Are they mixed? Is men, women?
From what I've seen, it's mainly men, and they all look like they have problematic OnlyFans. But they kind of all look like my type, if I'm honest. They're kind of burly men with beards who all look like they bought their vapes from a shop called Statutory Vape. Does that make sense? That's like, I'm not going to lie, like some of them are real cute. And which is very au fait for sort of queer sexuality and straight worship and fetishization, right? That's
Do you
psychology.
think a lot of these guys are confused?
No, I think a lot of them have been brought up in a church, a very strict Orthodox church, and I think part of the remit of any religion when it gets to its fundamental core is about removing a person's ability to critically think. Mm-hmm. Because how else can you accept the fundamental, ridiculous sort of absurdities of religion?
It takes indoctrination.
It takes indoctrination.
Cultish.
Well, I just think there's a difference between we all say, oh no, in cults you chant and you drink weird things and you only follow certain rules and you exclude yourself from society. I'm like, that is religion. I was raised in Judaism, right? Orthodox Judaism to me is just as insane as Orthodox Christianity. Religion itself is just, it should be, in its purest loving form, should be just a little teddy bear you hold when you're scared at night. Yeah. If you need it.
Aye.
It's the same, and that's the same as anything. For me, it's Julia Roberts movies. For you guys, it's Jesus.
Yeah, if it's hard to accept that when you die, it goes dark.
Yeah,
it's gone.
Yeah.
Right. So it is nice to just have a little fantasy in your head.
Correct.
That I'm just going to explode into this kaleidoscope of colours and because that's my idea. You have a big ass DMT dream.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think pineal gland bursts and you have a big ass DMT dream.
Take some LSD and Viagra and get a hooker.
Yeah.
I can't recommend it enough. In Zurich, we did it. It's great. Yeah. Anyway, so they, all of this stuff started. My social media, by the way, is my phone, constant 63 degrees Celsius every day. It's like a coddled egg. You'd pay $7 for it on toast in sort of a ritzy neighborhood.
Yeah. And I messaged you about doing this, and then I was like, He's not going in his Instagram DMs. What a fucking cesspit that must be.
The week after...
That's just going through all the fucking hatred to find my phone number. And then...
So what happened was, as it was going on, my phone, my team took my phone away from me.
Right. Because I completely non-communicado.
No, I couldn't take it. I was scrolling and spiraling, or I was not going outside, or if I was going outside, I was starting to like get panicky.
Yeah.
About just being anywhere.
Being recognised by any of these people.
Yeah, and it's not that I think I'm famous enough to be recognised. It's just this in the back of the mind, fight or flight thing.
But the people that have been obsessing over here, they've been looking at pictures of your face. They've been watching the clip, so you might not be recognised by a great deal of people when you go out, but the people that do are going to be dangerous.
And it's getting tagged. It's getting tagged in things. People are saying, "Come out, you dog! Show us with your face. If I see you in the street, I'm going to drag you out by your hair." Like quite violent stuff. They were threatening my parents through me. My parents were under instruction not to open anything that came addressed to me. It was pretty crazy. I love that I'm still going through the timeline of all of this. So my phone was taken away from me, and then the police, the VicPol South Australia Police and New South Wales Police were involved. I had to have security at gigs because we just didn't know what we were dealing with. We really didn't. And one night in Adelaide, someone snuck into the show, and luckily they just pulled out of their bag a sign. Luckily, it was just a sign.
A silent protester.
Yeah, right. But also,
what pish was written on that sign?
Just Rueben must apologise to my God. There's a hashtag, apologise Rueben, that's gotten about 100 little tags, which I think is adorable, and I think I want to put it on a T-shirt. Just to imagine me.
Soz God.
Soz God. Soz but lol.
Soz God. You should do the Soz God tour.
Well, I've had the Soz God tour. Well, the next show's called World War Me, which I quite like, but Soz God. Maybe World War Me and the Logline.
I think that should be the title of this podcast now, is Soz God.
Soz God. I mean, I'm sold. I'd rather listen to that. And then they said they were going to protest. It was the bell. So then I'm scatting about here.
That's all right. Well,
there was a Mark Latham, who was an Australian politician. Is now, I think he's out. He made a speech at a Sydney church in Belfield, and he's quite far right.
Were you brought up in sermons?
Huh?
Were you brought up in sermons and churches?
Me, I was brought up Jewish.
I was in. Sorry. Was the issue of you brought up by priests in church?
I hope it was. I hope they started sizzling when they said my name in a consecrated ground.
The holy water just starts bubbling.
No, it just turns into sort of Pinot Noir. Just turns into a nice Sangiovese. And he did this speech, and there were about 15 protesters, LGBTQ protesters, because he's pretty hateful speech. And these Christian Lives Matter guys marshaled 250 men and beat the shit out of these protesters. And it was a pretty big deal over here in Australia.
So it was actually like actual violence, not the threat of...
No, actual violence.
Where's this on the timeline? Is this last year?
No, this is recently. This is maybe a few months ago.
Fuck.
And so they made this, and the lead guy was on Instagram being like, you go to Belfield, you tear these people out by their hair, you punch, you beat them up, blah, blah, blah. He then, so that happened. And then the threats were, we're going to protest. There were 200 people were protesting outside the project's TV offices saying, cancel the project, right? Excuse me. And then my management...
What were you feeling at the time? Were you just like, fucking look what's happened?
Yeah.
Like, such a small domino. You know, Jesus got nailed for 3 days, like the joke.
Yeah.
And then boom, 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 fucking...
It's ridiculous. It's also so funny because it's not a joke that hasn't existed before. And it's a pun. It's a dad joke. If I'd used the word hammered versus nailed, they wouldn't have cared. But the fact that you're making Jesus sexual, which is ridiculous because Christians have been sexualizing and fetishizing Jesus for centuries.
So hammered as in drunk. If I could get drunk with Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah, they wouldn't have cared.
They wouldn't have cared.
And if you don't want us to sexualize Jesus, stop drawing him with cum gutters.
Yeah,
Like, why is he so buff?
He's got absolute unrealistic goals body, doesn't he?
Correct.
I
He's got an anytime fitness fucking.
I can't go to church without being body shamed.
So it was very scary. It was a lot. I can't explain to you, because I'm still working through it with a therapist. I can't explain to you what it was because it kept coming in waves. Like some days I would feel okay or I'd forget about it. And some days I would just sort of disassociate and spiral. And it's my fight or flight response, this adrenaline surges would just come through and I'd be shaking going, all right, what's happening? What do I do?
Yeah, so you've got that fight or flight and you're seeing the hate and like it's like a pendulum swinging one way and then you've got all of the love that's coming your way and all of the support that's coming your way and like comedians rallying around you and
comedians came forward publicly. Em Rusciano tweeted, which is amazing. On my Instagram, Rosie Jones came out swinging. Great. Which is amazing.
Yeah,
it's fucking incredible. And I felt amazing support from comedians, which is so funny because I'd always felt a bit of an imposter syndrome with comics.
Oh.
Yeah, because I've been raised with, you're cabaret, not comedy. Excuse me. Even when I was nominated for Most Outstanding Show at Melbourne Comedy Festival, people were going, well, it's cabaret, not comedy, Ruben.
But I think we've got a very inclusive industry anyway, where if you're making people laugh, it doesn't matter which means you're doing it.
There was a great moment in Brisbane when something went wrong in one of my acts and the curtain that was meant to like be the kabuki drop reveal didn't reveal. So I lifted it up to go under and the whole thing fell on me. And it was a farce of a set, just a farce of a set. But I was on the bill with some amazing comics who I really looked up to, so I was putting a lot of pressure on myself. And the set kind of got there in the end. But when I got off stage, every comedian was like side stage cheering and hugging me going, yeah, you ate shit, yeah. And it felt really nice.
Yeah, it was inclusive. There's something inclusive about being roasted, isn't there? Like, I want friends that'll never say anything kind to my face, but they'll defend me behind my back.
Absolutely. This is what I want. This is what I want and what I have.
Not the other way around.
There's something, as you say, not just inclusive, but beautiful and exhilarating about being roasted by people and roasted well, because it shows how well they know you and how much effort they're going to put in.
And how comfortable they are in your company. Yeah. How much they know they can get away with.
Yeah.
And you're just like, we've pushed boundaries to the point there just isn't any now. That's good.
Yeah.
No, so that's great. So let's get on to the timeline again.
So the timeline again. I know, it's such a long fucking timeline. And then
I think we're up to the violence in Sydney.
Yeah. This is kind of where it got real. This is where my agent called me and said, look, we've had to have a meeting.
Were there arrests?
They've arrested 2 people, as far as I know, in association with all of this. I don't actually know where that's at.
And you probably won't find out. Like, they don't really share.
And I also think my management are being quite smart about what they tell me and what they don't, protecting my mental health, which is probably necessary.
Is good. Like, great. Like I've been working with all those guys, and they're great guys, and they'll do the right thing by you.
I feel very supported, very, very supported by them. So then they had a meeting with me, and they said, look, if we want to do the show on the night that we say we will for Sydney Comedy Fest, it's going to be very difficult for us to safeguard the safety of the audience and the band. And remember, there are 8 other comics on at the Enmore that night. Mm-hmm. So that's their audience and them.
Yeah. And closing the streets.
Well, they said to us we would be looking at closing Enmore Road, which is a pretty huge street to close.
Which would take mounted police.
Mm-hmm. And there would be, I wouldn't be able to even safeguard the businesses on Enmore Road. Mm-hmm. It's so funny how much is threatened by these people.
It's gonna affect Marcella's, the butchers.
Yep.
It's going to be affected by it.
Right.
Front room coffee shop.
No, and remember, these people aren't about peaceful protest. They're out for blood, I think. And also it meant that the Enmore Road's one of the arteries to the Factory Theatre. Sydney Comedy Festival, how many shows are at the Factory Theatre? Mm-hmm. How many other comics' incomes am I going to interfere with or possibly disrupt? How many other people's safety am I going to endanger? And I have, contrary to popular belief, not a lot of ego about this kind of stuff. I've got a pretty firm idea of what's important. And I was like, just postpone. I don't lose anything by postponing a show if it just means that other people are safe. It's the same as wearing a mask in public during a pandemic.
Yeah.
You do it. You get
You're like,
vaccinated.
"Oh, I'd rather not, but I will."
Yeah. I'd rather not, but I will. And look, there is definitely a psychological point where we all went, is this losing? Is this giving up? Is this being giving in? And look, the thing is, maybe if I was quitting the business, but I've got a full career ahead of me. I've got years of shows and millions more people to piss off.
You still were doing a bunch of gigs. Like the Scarlet Pimpernel, like, catch me if you can. I'm at this gig. Where's he going to be?
What ended up happening was at Sydney Comedy Fest, I was the secret guest at multiple shows. So I was running around and I was just
and you're like, I've got nothing to plug.
They're like, oh, when's your show on, Rueben? It's not. I'm here instead. So I got to go and do a surprise gig at the Sydney Opera House and jump on the bill. I got to go to the Comedy Store. I got to host at the Factory. I got to host at the Enmore. I still got to do a lot of things, but my solo show...
And poking fun at the cunts while you were on stage.
Well, I mean, that was the best part. Yeah. It was a really interesting time to feel like an outlaw. But this real kind of... Yeah, it felt dangerous, which is what I love because cabaret itself, what I do, comes from a societal pushback. Cabaret really cemented itself in the 30s, in the Weimar period in Germany, as a response to fascism, rising fascism. So doing it in this sense suddenly felt very real and very exciting. And it felt like I was on the coalface of something.
Yeah, I mean, you really were. Like, you were really, like, fucking pushing against the enemy. Yeah. Essentially. Like, you're fucking front line.
I love the idea of, like, the Scarlet Pimpernel. That's fantastic.
Just scooting around.
It was. And then, so we postponed the show. We made the announcements. And we're going to postpone it to a date when the theatre is all mine as well. Just easier, simpler. I don't have to worry about any other comic, any other people's audience.
Yeah, and do you think because you've pressed snooze on it, then it'll have like the heat of what the momentum had built for them as a front, like for the right wing groups? Do you think that'll have fizzled out a little bit, and it'll be less of a
I think it will,
less of an opposition because they'll be angry at something else by then. They get angry at stuff. It's what they do.
Look, and when will this go out? When will this podcast go out?
Thursday.
Okay. Yeah, I think there's an element of that. I certainly think, in the same way that dogs chasing cars will chase the next car that comes along.
Yeah.
I think there's an element of that. I think it'll also be a much less difficult and costly procedure to lock down the Enmore Theatre and make sure everyone's safe and check everyone who comes in, and it won't be a matter of closing a street, or worrying about 8 other comics and 10,000 other audience members.
Yeah,
because those were the numbers. The Enmore's 1,700 seats.
Yeah,
8 other comics.
Yeah,
that's
a massive impact.
16,000 people going in and out of that venue in one day.
And then you've got the street to yourself. You've got the evening to yourself.
It's so huge.
And is that the only city that happened in? Are you having any?
Yeah, it's the only city it's happened in.
Nothing here in Perth?
No. Perth is great. We had the show last night, sold out at the Regal, and it was
great room,
standing ovation, just fantastic. And in Adelaide, sold out, standing ovations, one protester on the last night with a cardboard sign. And to be quite frank, the audience started to boo him. And thank God we had security there, because they went, no, hang on, that's not going to happen. And the security could safely escort him, this lovely protester, away to somewhere he was safe. I'm like, he can protest.
Yeah.
I believe in free speech. You can safely protest.
You've got a right to protest.
Absolutely.
It would be hypocritical of us to just go, I don't believe in that cause.
But also, he went to the effort. He went to the effort of putting a Sharpie to a piece of cardboard. I don't want that to go to waste. Yes. Nice. He even spelt it right.
He was just got out of his single bed in his mother's house. Went over to his little his inspiration station. Just a single square table pushed up against the wall with no windows.
Absolutely, a lot of red thread and maybe a live, laugh, love poster.
Yeah,
maybe a little cat being a hang in there poster. That's it. Oh, that's what Jesus should. Why isn't there a picture of a crucified Jesus with "Hang in there, baby"?
Hang in there.
That's fantastic. That's great. So yeah, no other city, and in fact, the sales, the sales have been great. But in Sydney specifically, and I think it's because of this group, this specific group.
So
Christian Lives Matter.
are Christian Lives Matter specifically in Sydney? They're not like they're just there. And what do you think they do? Do you think they have a clubhouse? Oh, the church.
I think they definitely do have a clubhouse. I think the snacks are awful. I think it's always drafty. That's one of the reasons they're grumpy. They're always on the verge of catching a cold.
Do you think they wear little sticker name tags?
Oh, yeah, can you imagine? All of them written in blood. I look, the thing is, I'm not one to openly, how do I put this? I don't think there's anything gained by me being openly disrespectful of these people, because I don't think that they're the kind of people who are interested in joking about it. Like, they can send me as much hate to me as they want. I'll have a sense of humor about myself. Mm-hmm. And I'll be able to go, well, I'll take that and I'll put that in the show.
Yeah.
You know, one of the messages was just like, "Hey, drag fag," to me. And I'm like, that's funny. I'm putting it on a T-shirt and selling it. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get a tote bag saying "drag fag
Like
bag."
the Pits and Perverts T-shirts. You know about that? Where the miners, the gay community helped the miners in Wales.
What?
Because the miners were getting ostracised and fucking villainised by the right-wing media when they were closing the mines. And the gay community saw what was happening to them and just went and started doing fundraisers for the miners, for their families.
Amazing.
And there's, I think the film's called Pride, actually.
Okay.
And it was made in like 2015.
It's terrible gay. I haven't seen it.
It's so good.
Yeah.
And basically they had this like a kind of festival where they had, because they got called the Pits and Perverts was a headline on the newspaper.
Right.
Like as if these two villains of society had joined, and they just made these amazing Pits and Perverts T-shirts for the Pits and Perverts night, and all the miners in the gay community went
I love that.
Partying and making money.
That's fantastic.
And I managed to get a vintage one for my wife. So I got one of the actual ones from the 80s.
How much did that cost you?
Not even that much. Just like the price of a T-shirt. Like maybe it's like 20 quid or something.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I love that. I just love that. It's so interesting. It's so interesting where intersectionality comes into it. And you just go, it doesn't feel like there's a lot of intersectionality on the right.
Nah.
And then the left comes through.
Yeah.
This stuff, because they're always the right's just interested in division. It's always interested in division. Mm-hmm. It's the only way to conquer.
Yeah, I always have found and I mean it's kind of cliched opinion anyway, but the right really stick together and the left are kind of against each other a little bit. So they like, it doesn't matter where you are on the sliding scale of right wing. If you're bigoted, that's good enough for me. It doesn't matter how bigoted. Right? Yeah. If you're just training wheels bigoted.
Well, I just think it's because they don't have any. They don't have any interpersonal ideals. Mm-hmm. They don't have any care about feelings, right? Uh-huh. They're just moving forward on an agenda, which I love. And they're like, you have the gay agenda. I'm like, do we? You have an agenda you have not stopped moving on for centuries. And on the left, people are more caring about feelings, which is one of the reasons why it's a good thing. But it does mean that we stop in and check. We stop in and check, and we check ourselves much more than the right does.
Yeah, I suppose that's what's happening. But sometimes it
goes too far.
Yeah,
it absolutely goes too far, and we get bogged down in the minutiae of it and checking: is everyone okay? Are you being offensive? Are you problematic? Out of fear that we're not the right.
Yeah,
whereas the right knows it's right. It's not burdened by that. They just go, well, let's keep on fucking shutting shit down.
Exactly, and then like also the left sometimes don't leave you room for growth. So if there's something you said 10 years ago that you've changed on, they'll dig that up to bring you down. And
it's so funny. All the right has to do is just like drop a little pebble like that in. Oh, well, in 2010 you said this in a tweet, and then the left just go on it. But also, can I say this? We say this happens. The output of outrage from the Daily Mail, right? Or press like that is what that is. It's the distraction method. It's the outrage machine. It's that. The rise in hate for what I said is calculable by the amount of Daily Mail articles that happen. They fuel the outrage of... and I don't know if these people do think of themselves... Sorry. I don't know if these people do view themselves as the right, like these Christian Lives Matter.
Yeah.
Christians in general, let's say, view themselves on the right, but the press that they read are pulling strings. Pulling strings.
Oh, that
completely.
because your Sky News out here is more like Fox News, isn't
Correct,
it? I'm
yeah.
told. Whereas Sky News back home, it isn't like right down the barrel of the lens. This is how you think. It's just a lot more subtle. It's like, for instance, when I was at the Black Lives Matter marches in London, it was just such a friendly occasion. It was such an occasion of love. Like there was absolute love and support and that in the air. And like if anybody had dropped litter, somebody would pick it up. If anyone knocked down a road cone, somebody would put it back because everybody knew all eyes are on us. They want us to fuck up. They want this to end in a riot, right? And then I was there for like 4 hours or something, and then hanging around and chatting to people, and there's people with megaphones like educating and talking, and everybody else listening, and it was such a like wholesome occasion, despite the anger towards what was happening towards black people. And I went home after that and watched Sky News just to see how it was being broadcast, and there was this 15-second clip of, when it got dark, a little bit of pushing and shoving with some police, and the police chasing some people down an alley.
Yeah.
Right. And they must have had to go through hundreds of hours of footage to get that 15 seconds.
Yeah.
And then go, got it.
Got it.
Show that up north. So I'm down in London. I've been on the march. I know how it was. And now I'm watching on TV, and then I'm looking on Facebook of everybody going mad.
Yeah, it's there. Yeah, absolutely. And it's so interesting because another thing that occurred was, and this was covered as well, was that all of these Sky News and Daily Mail and right-wing pundits, all of them 6:30 p.m. news stuff, like how disgusting this queer comic told this disgusting joke while children were watching at 6:30 p.m. when people are having dinner with their kids, and then they play the clip. Every single one of them played the clip. Like, oh, so you don't find it that disgusting?
Yeah.
The clip is still up all over the place because it gets some views.
And just in case your children missed it,
Yeah.
here it is again.
Exactly right.
And you know what's good? A lot of them children would have been telling that joke at school.
Absolutely.
Because the children weren't offended by it.
No.
The children would have thought it was fucking hilarious
Yeah.
because it was dirty and it was mocking God.
A lot of them are like, how do I explain this joke to my kids? I'm like, don't. Why are you watching TV with your kids while you're eating dinner? Are you afraid to talk to them?
Yeah.
You're not telling your kids anything.
Yeah.
Plus, your kid probably already knows. Like, at what age are you really watching a news program with a 5-year-old? And if you are, they're not going to know what this means. No. Or you just say, oh, it's a joke about having sex. Why are you afraid to talk about your kid about sex?
Yeah. Or don't even tell them about the euphemism.
No.
And just go, well, you got nailed to the cross for 3 days.
Yeah.
You can absolutely brush over it.
Exactly.
It's a sacrifice.
A lot of the comics that I work with in Melbourne work in the writers' room at the project. Mm-hmm. And in the project, the comedian in the writers' room gets the job of answering a lot of the Facebook messages as well. Don't know how that job got there. But one of them was like, first off, we got like 6,000 or something messages in a day. And one of them was, this has affected me more than anything in my life.
Oh my God, what a vanilla life.
I know.
Have you just been sat there the whole time?
Yeah. Have you been in stasis? Have you been in an isolation tub?
Have you been in Plato's cave? Have you been watching Shadows on the Wall?
Yes. But yes, they have.
Yes.
Yes, but that is what fundamental religion is.
Yes.
It's Plato's cave. This is one thing that I do respect about Reform Judaism, which is what I was raised in. And I don't respect a lot about religion. Two things. One, when I was 13 and I said to my rabbi, I don't think religion is for me, he said, I respect that. All you have to do to be a good Jew is treat others as you would be treated, and you can go off on your life. I was like, great. Fantastic. It respects the idea that being a basic human is not solely the remit of religion. Yeah. It's not the only thing you get. And then...
Yeah, to be able to just go, okay, be kind.
Yeah. Off the pop.
Like, show love.
Yeah.
Show empathy.
Yeah.
Right? And you're doing everything by the scriptures as far as I'm concerned, if you're showing kindness.
And the other thing about Judaism that I like is that it is a religion that is based on not the blind faith in God, but a struggle with God. Mm-hmm. And it's about education. It values education, and education outside the church, outside the synagogue.
And education also involves questioning authority.
Questioning. There's so much questioning of God, and within a lot of this Torah, a lot of the religious figures, and they're apocryphal. You can say that they're fictional. It's all up for debate, you know. But at least a lot of them question God and struggle with God and have a real tussle with God. And it's not about blind faith. It's one of the small few things about any religion that I truly go, that's cool.
Yeah. I think because if you're struggling with God and you're questioning God, like it's actually takes a lot of faith to still be with him at the end of it, because the minute you start questioning anything like that, it unravels.
Yeah. And I'm an atheist. I'm totally up for I'm totally science-based. You know, I don't believe that there could be a God. And as Stephen Fry said, if there is a God, he's a fucking asshole for making a world like this, right? But if you're going to try and make a religion, at least let that religion be grounded in some kind of debate. It should be fertile enough and robust enough. Yeah, you're
right. You should, like, the reason that everyone's so rigid in that protection with it is because they know that the minute you blaspheme is the minute it crumbles. Create a human shield of brainwashed people around this silly story that we've all agreed upon, and fight them. Yeah. Fight them if they try anything.
It just feels like trying to make a sandcastle on a wet day.
Yeah.
It's going to crumble.
It's falling apart, isn't it?
You know, we were here before. Every human being was here before God, and we were fine.
Yeah.
It got built, all religion got built as a form of financial and educational control.
Of course.
For wealth.
Yeah,
money.
And it's like, maybe it was needed a little bit. I'm not going to...
Well, we didn't have science.
I'm not going to say there wasn't a use for it.
Yeah.
Right? Because people might have, like, broke the laws and committed crimes if they didn't think God was watching, if they weren't superstitious beings that didn't have more answers than we have now.
A lot of religious laws about food are just because we didn't have fridges.
Yeah.
We didn't have refrigeration.
Oh, yeah.
Don't eat shellfish. Don't eat pork. Sensible when you're
Don't eat pork in the desert where you can't
refrigerate.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not a...
Don't cook meat and dairy in the same dish. Not because you would be boiling a calf in its mother's milk, which is a lovely kind of idea. Also delicious. Veal and dairy with a cream sauce. Gorgeous. Nice. But... it's just about the fact that we didn't have proper hygiene, no soap, no antibacterial, no nothing. Washing your hands, there are prayers for washing your hands 3 times. It's hygiene rules.
Yeah. And also just not even religion, putting your shoes on the table. That's bad luck. Is it bad luck? Did your whole family get food poisoning last time you put dog shit on the table?
Exactly.
And like opening an umbrella indoors is bad luck. What, because you knocked your vase over? Grandma's ashes got knocked off the fireplace because you fucking opened your umbrella indoors.
Don't break a mirror, it's bad luck. No, you'll just get glass in your foot, you prick.
Yeah, and like don't walk over 3 drains. Okay, do you know about that one? Don't walk over 3 drains.
Where are you living that you have 3 drains in a row, and what do you need that much drainage for?
We live in Britain where it rains always. London, right? My wife would run to work, and there's like when you get like the 3 drain covers. That's the common 3 drain covers. Like if you walk over 2, you have to like kind of jump to one side. But sometimes she'd be jogging to work and there's people pushing prams and that, and she's like diving into people.
That's
pushing
very funny.
And I had to just right. What we'll do is we'll go out, we'll run over the drains a bunch of times, right? And then if anything bad happens, we'll deal with it. Right? But you need to get this.
It's exposure therapy.
Yeah, we need to get this out your head so you can live your life.
That's very funny.
But yeah, there's people like listening to this, muggles, that will not walk over 3 drains. They simply won't.
I still go over, like when I'm walking along a pavement, I'll still like not step on a crack if I can help it.
Oh really?
Which is really stupid because I'm 38 years old.
Yeah.
My mother's had 2 hip replacements. Her back is the least. She smokes. She's a 75-year-old who smokes. She'd love a lie down.
Yeah.
And I would love a house. Could you hurry up, Mum? Have another cigarette.
God, imagine like the one time you stepped on a crack.
And then it's down.
She was just like, she physically broke her back.
That's what that app was, actually. It wasn't my Virgin. It was just, I've got it linked up to my mum's neural pathway.
Yeah. So the 3 drains in a row.
Yeah.
Of course, that would have been unsafe 50 years ago, 60 years ago.
Yeah.
That would, before health and safety, before people started suing the council. That was unsafe.
before we had litigators.
That's not a superstition. You fell down a well.
Do you know my mate? She's actually the producer of my podcast, Come to Daddy, available where you get all good podcasts. She's devoted part of her life to operating a pug hospice.
Great.
So while we're recording the podcast, we used to have several pugs in different forms of decay.
Specifically pugs.
Specifically pugs, because she's like, they've had a hard life. They've been the victim of human kind of genetic interference, eugenics for dogs.
They can't breathe good.
No. And when they get older, no one wants them because they're full of health issues and shit. So she had like two 15-year-old pugs in prams. One of them had no eyes because the eyes are the first things to go in pugs because they either pop out or their faces are so shallow that they get poked out by running into things. And Velma, this pug would just be like snoring and wheezing while we're trying to record a podcast.
Adorable little abominations.
And they really are. But Velma would go taking up for walks where we were, and that's just letting Velma off the leash in the street and letting her just stumble around. But every so often, Velma would try accidentally to walk over a grate and fall into it. But just her legs, because her body's too fat to go through, and she'd just sit there just looking like this little wiggling fur sausage.
Little pug slug.
Yeah.
Just a little pug slug on the drain.
Just there.
No,
and her tongue would hang out the side of her mouth, but she also had a hemorrhoid. So because she had no tail or eyes, you really didn't know which
she just
end
had a bum
was...
grape.
Yeah.
And a tongue.
Yeah, the grape of wrath.
just like a hot dog.
You didn't know which one was which until you got too close to it. Really?
No.
And she would just sit there on the grate, just wiggling and snuffling and kind of going, could someone help me, please?
Oh, that's adorable.
Lovely.
So I've told you that my wife's running a dog soft play.
No.
Did I tell you about this?
That? No.
Everybody knows about the Dog and Bone on the podcast, but it's an indoor dog park for people to walk their dog outdoors. As I mentioned, it rains a lot in the UK. It's muddy, specifically Scotland.
She must be making $1 million.
You know what? She does well off dog birthday parties.
I bet she does. People are insane.
People love putting balloons up for their dogs, getting doggy cakes, and coming and hanging out. And she says,
I mean, it's more healthy than having kids, isn't it? And probably cheaper.
yeah, and she can take her dog to work now. You know?
Oh, yeah. Can she?
It's just Disneyland.
What kind of dog is it?
Peggy's a Cavapoo. She lives in Disneyland. She's got a ball pit,
That's
a
awesome.
sand pit.
Can I come and volunteer and be your dog for a week?
Yes, you'll be my dog.
Yeah, great.
You could come out and hang at the Dog and Bone, or you could actually just be my dog.
Fantastic.
Yeah, you and Peggy. Peggy getting jealous of you.
I've got a leash. It's fine. I'm
Yeah, I bet.
trained for the most days.
She's been told, because we were concerned about the summer coming up, but we don't have long summers, but we might have to endure like a couple of weeks of sunshine where we compete with the parks, you know. But somebody came in for Pug Club. We had a Pug Club where it was full of pugs, and they were like, this is going to be great in the summer because pugs struggle with their breathing and the heat.
Do you just
is a
pump
problem.
Ventolin into the vents?
What's Ventolin again? Which
Ventolin
one's
is
that?
like the inhaler, the thing you
Oh,
use.
right,
For,
is
like
that-
it's a steroid.
Yeah.
Thing.
Ventolin plugins like Glade.
A plug-in.
A plug-in. Ventolin plugins. We're going to be rich. Ruben, we're going to be fucking rich. We've invented Ventolin plugins to just put Ventolin around the house of pug owners.
Sloss is furious he missed out on this.
Yeah.
This is great.
Well, man, thank you for replacing Sloss today, because this has been a fantastic podcast. We've done it now, and you've got a sound check.
Oh, shit, I do actually, yeah.
So, plug some stuff, right? So, you're coming to the Fringe.
I'm coming to Edinburgh Fringe. I'm there for the whole month with my show, The K-Hole. Come in. And then we're doing a victory lap of The Butcher's Back, which sold out last year. So we're doing the last 2 weeks.
Great. And is that your solo show? Or is
That's
that your
my
cabaret
solo
show?
show.
Your cabaret show is the K-Hole?
The lineup show, the cabaret show is The K-Hole, and then the solo show, The Butcher's Back. Just look me up. They're on sale now. And then actually we're about to announce a UK and Europe tour.
Amazing.
Of The Butcher's Back.
Great.
So keep in...
Are you going to come to Glasgow?
I'd love to come to
Are you going to stay at mine?
Yes, I absolutely am. I'm bringing
Are
a
you gonna come
leash
hang
and
out
the
with the
ball
dog
pit.
and-
I'm going to be in
Yes,
the ball
it's
pit.
happening.
Do you know I used to gig in Glasgow in Candleweeks?
Candleweeks? I'm not familiar with Candleweeks.
Candleweeks, it's the street, that little cobblestone street just near the Rooms. What's that
Okay.
gay bar? Is it called Rooms? The Rooms? Riding Rooms.
Riding Rooms.
Near the
What a
Riding
great
Rooms.
name.
God, you got to come to the Riding Rooms. They'll
Yeah.
tear you apart.
We'll
It'll
do
be
that.
great.
We'll get the right. Take me to the Riding Rooms when we're in Glasgow.
I wonder if it's still there. Anyway, I'm on tour. You can find me on all the social medias, Rueben Kaye Official on Instagram, at Rueben Kaye on TikTok and Twitter and Facebook, if you're still on Facebook.
You relic. And if you are still on Facebook, you're probably more likely to be on Christian Lives Matter.
Yeah. Find me on Christian Mingle.
Thank you so much, mate. That was wonderful.
Hey, it's a joy. Thank you.
And I'm going to try and come to your show tonight. I think I finished my last gig as you start, but I'm going to duck in the back.
We'll go up late.
I'm going to climb in the back of the K-hole. We're back. We're like, oh, bye, plug some stuff. And we're about to go for lunch. Started talking some more. And we're like, let's just talk some more.
Well, one thing that we didn't talk about was, in terms of free speech and getting cancelled, it's this thing of the right is always the first person to say you can't say anything anymore and we have to have free speech. Everyone's getting cancelled. And the thing is, it's always the irony of we want free speech for us.
For us. Yeah, we want free speech. We want to be able to make fun of you.
Yes.
We want to be able to make fun of black people, homosexual people, trans people.
Disabled people.
Yeah, disabled people.
It's always,
women.
you can't say anything. You can't call midgets anymore. And I'm like, for fuck's sake, guys, move on.
Does that bother you so much that you can't say midget?
But the minute they come under any kind of scrutiny, the minute they can go, oh, we're victims. It's a very great bait and switch. It was saying, oh, you're the ones with the agenda. They have the agenda. You're the ones who are victimizing us.
Yeah.
You know? It's always funny to be like, oh, Christians have been under attack for years and this is too much. I'm like, what? Christians have owned the land, murdered people for who they are for centuries.
Fiddled with children.
Yeah, exactly. And it's very interesting.
So that Daniel has a bit about people that hate the idea of people being triggered. Right?
Yeah.
Burn a flag in front of them.
Yeah.
They're just triggered by different things.
Yep.
They don't realise because when they're outraged by something, they don't realise that they're being triggered.
No.
Because they think their outrage is legitimate.
Exactly.
And your outrage has no substance.
I think there could be a lovely thing to try, which is when everyone says I'm offended, you don't use the word offended, use the word challenged.
I'm challenged.
I'm challenged by that.
I'm challenged by
I'm
that.
challenged by that because these people are so built into masculinity as an ideal that they will not back down from a challenge.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And that's a very different word to, oh, it's offensive. It's offensive. Offensive means outrage. A challenge means you have to grapple with the idea of it. And I think that's I would love to do that.
I'm challenged by that, and I'm pretty convinced you won't win us over, but give it a shot.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. I'm challenged by that. How do I deal with a challenge?
Mm-hmm.
I'll
try and be open-minded to this challenge. Mm-hmm. I'm disagreeing with it right now.
Yeah.
With the plugins that my software has.
Yeah. Offended is a shut-off, so you can do what you've been trained to do, which is fight.
Yeah.
Essentially, which is violence, which is I don't want to use my words, I want to use my fists.
I'm going to defend my opinion like a sports fan.
Yeah.
I'm not changing team.
Yeah.
I support this through thick and thin, even when it's losing.
Yeah.
Even when this opinion is losing.
But also, like sports, often it's about something that doesn't affect them and they don't have skin in the game.
Yeah.
People love sport because I get to do everything and get the adrenaline spike and the dopamine spike while not actually playing the game, while not having any skin in it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And the same for religion.
You know what I love with sport is that there's still a bit of primal tribalism in us because we evolved really fast in the last 10,000 years.
Yeah.
So there's still a bit of, that's my tribe.
Yep.
Right? And that what I love is I just get to vent that. I get to go and stand in a stadium and cheer on my team.
Yeah.
Right? And then I don't take that into the world.
But people do. They take it into the world and it becomes their identity. And the same for religion. Religion is just fucking soccer hooliganism with better wardrobe. Mm-hmm. And possibly nicer music.
Yeah.
Because again, it's also about funneling huge amounts of money away from people who need it most.
Yes.
And
I saw...
and it's about tribalism masquerading as community. Mm-hmm. And that's again another reason why the queer community actually has community.
Yes. And the royalists at the moment.
Oh my God.
It's tribalism.
Coronation is embarrassing. It's football hooliganism. And you see all the people going, I don't want to talk about the Republic. I don't want to talk about the anti-monarchists. I don't want to give them any oxygen. I'm like, hey, have you seen the boos? Charles going out and just getting booed in Liverpool with Not My King and huge fucking... And it's so ridiculous. At taxpayer expense, this dick is going to get crowned.
It's so expensive. There's people starving in that country right now. There's people that can't pay for their heat.
Hundreds of millions of pounds it's going to cost.
They can't keep the house warm over the winter.
He didn't pay inheritance tax on $1.6 billion worth of inherited wealth from his mum.
And you got poor people that are saying, well, they bring in more money.
Yeah.
They bring in more money than,
but again, this is
spend.
The
and you're
media.
like, how about you bring in all that money Spend less.
Yeah.
And you won't be as hungry.
Imagine if Charles said, "Hey, look, I will the $100 million that we would have spent on this coronation, I will give to food banks in the north of England, or I will give to that funding, and someone just put the fucking thing on my head." We'll go to the Crown, we'll film it like a Netflix stand-up
like
special.
a TikTok,
2
man.
cameras,
Fucking selfie cam.
a selfie coronation. I would have more respect.
Aye.
Instead of all of us having to tune in and swear allegiance to a piece of sunburnt Play-Doh with no chin.
Oh man, how's that the king? Because I've been saying this about like when alpha men start talking about I'm a king.
Right. And then
You're not thinking of that guy.
No, he looks like he shares genetic material with a half-shaved spaniel. Like, why is he... I don't understand it.
What did you say on stage about his spunk, the text?
Oh my God. I said, I have this bit about the fact that he's getting crowned not by an assessment of merit or capability or an electoral process, just by the divine right of kings, which just means it's hereditary. It just means that seed was involved. And you know it's going to be that old English, thin, watery load, like when a room temp egg white can't hold its shape. And it's very different from me, because I like a man so butch when he comes I have to chew. I wanted like a shotgun full of gnocchi.
Amazing. Because you said that, and I was like, you just said it once, and I'm trying to memorize what you had said, so that when I'm doing the wounded deer.
The wounded deer is so graphic. It's so shockingly awful. When you said it, a chill ran through my body, because all I thought of was Bambi.
Oh, yeah.
Like Bambi's mum when she disappears into the bushes and you hear the gunshot and the silence, and Bambi's like going, "Mom." That's what I thought of.
That's what Natalie was becoming that bit.
It was so good.
So do you know, I've got this thing that I hadn't heard of until I realised I had it, called aphantasia.
What's that?
I'm mind blind. I don't have a visual imagination. I can't conjure up an image. Like I saw a tweet the other day about, do you know that you can just close your eyes and rotate a cow in your head? Nobody can stop you doing it and it costs you nothing. That's my disability. I can't do that.
That's the best thing.
I can't do the maned cow.
I'm done. I'm out.
Everybody
done.
has the maned cow, right?
That's the best thing. That's so joyful.
I can't do it. There's nothing there. There's blackness and darkness.
You
There's
can't
nothing.
think of a cow, like even just one angle?
Mate, I can't think of anything.
How did you come up with wounded deer?
I create so much theatre for the mind without having a theatre in my mind. I create so much imagery.
That's so funny.
I read books, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not having the fucking vivid hallucinations that you guys have on your stories. I've had memory wanks over darkness.
To be fair, hot. That sounds great.
when I close my eyes, there's no images. That's what I love about LSD, actually, because it fucking peaks the colourful explosion of fucking...
Right. When you take LSD also, do you get very horny?
I've only done it a couple of times, and nah.
Every time, just like...
No, but I wasn't around stimulus when I was on it either. I was spiked in Benidorm, which we talked about on the podcast recently, so I won't go over it, but I was just fucking running around the streets not knowing I was on acid. And then...
the only person who thinks Benidorm's amazing because you could see it in 5 different dimensions.
Yeah, aye, it was crazy. It's fucking... I finally give it some life.
I took LSD in Zurich and we were in a 5-person fuck pile, and as we were doing it, there was a girl in the middle and a guy in front of her, and she was bent over, and there's a guy behind her, and I was behind the guy, and we're standing in the middle of the room, and all of our suitcases all on tour, blah, 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 and as she came, she squirted into her own open luggage.
Did you? You hate it when your cat does that? You get angry at your cat for that?
And we all just kind of went, oh, no. Except she went more like, whoa, whoa. It was fantastic.
You're like, come on, Carol, it was in a different room.
Yeah. It was just like, well, sorry, but tomorrow's a travel day. We got to dry that stuff out.
Oh man! Sorry, I looked there because this seemed like it was a lot louder than before. This is an
Well, it's 'cause
edit. This is an edit point. I thought I was recording off a different mic.
Oh.
But I'm not. I thought how sometimes that.
No, I think I'm leaned in. Now we're talking about sex. I've leaned into the mic instead of religion when I was like far back here.
Yeah, that's good though. It's good that it's recorded. I'm just going to check. Right, 9:50. I'll give an edit point for that.
Yeah.
The coronation. I want to get back to this.
Yeah, get to it.
The amount of people that I've seen on Vox Pops of people videoing and asking about Prince Andrew, and everyone's so forgiving about all the royals, all the Union Jack waving flag shaggers, are really forgiven about Prince Andrew being on Epstein's island and an underage sex worker and all the fucking
It's interesting.
debauchery that comes with him.
It's interesting because also the defense of it, it's so funny. The defense of it is, oh, well, so is this left-wing person or so was this other person.
Yeah, and you hate them, so why can't you hate him?
Yeah, exactly right.
But it's the instant turn on a dime about Prince Harry when he gets brought up, how disdainful they are and how unforgivable his actions are for loyalty and family.
Because the
and turning their
hierarchy of
back.
priority for them is the monarchy, because the monarchy ties them to an England that existed or that never existed, but they think existed, that they tie themselves to as a proprietary, not proprietary, what's it called? Like a fetishization of old English values, right? And fucking kids is part of that old English values. Like, oh, Prince Andrew, no, he's just a nonce. He's just a little...
I've seen a guy on one of these video interviews of people that are queuing up and camping out. I've seen a guy just saying he was just born in the wrong century.
Yeah, if he was Pope, we wouldn't have a problem with it, guys.
You forgive his nonsense by saying like, oh, you could date back then when people died at 40.
I also think there's an element of these people fetishize class. And if you have class, not money, class, then you can do anything. Because Harry married, in their mind, beneath him and is separating from and rejecting class.
Yeah.
They go, he's a traitor. He's a traitor to English values and an American as well. And they already have history with Wallace Simpson of hating the abdication of people who marry into an American.
Who's Wallace Simpson again?
Wallace Simpson was an American divorcee who married, it's gone out of my head. I want to say Albert. I have to Google this so I don't fuck up your podcast and seem like an uneducated prick.
Yeah, I mean, we are known on this podcast for the education that we provide.
Yeah.
It's less of a podcast and more of a public service.
So she married King Edward and he abdicated because she was a divorcee and it caused a constitutional crisis that led to his abdication. And this is in, and this was in the 30s, I think. And great jewelry and fashion collection, which is how she kind of is a bit of a queer icon. But again, it's about a king marrying beneath him.
Right.
Or a prince marrying beneath him and rejecting the monarchy.
Oh, this whole looking up to an authority that is bloodline is archaic
and absurd and ridiculous.
So we've just got to accept that we're still living in the past.
Yeah.
We all live like in the future, this period of time will be laughable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully.
But I also think that because of the way social media works, and yes, we're starting to police social media more, which people are taking as censorship, but look at what social media has done. Yes, it has connected us all, but it has also enforced rigid bubbles around all of us, which reinforce our views, which divide us more.
And it's also muddied the waters with information. It's give everybody validation for whatever their opinion is, however far-fetched it is. There'll always be some quite well-produced documentary that looks legit, that'll fucking...
Oh my God, Netflix's constant craving for content means that stuff gets put on there that you go, what the fuck is this? But by virtue of the fact that it's a Netflix documentary, it has legitimacy. And you go, what's going on here? What am I watching?
Yeah, I started watching this high-budget, Ancient Aliens type thing.
Ancient Apocalypse.
Is that what it was?
I think it is. And
is it that guy, Graham Hancock?
Who's been debunked several times, right?
He opens with, am I a historian? No. Am I a scientist? No. Am I an architect? No. But I ask the questions.
Oh my God, it's essentially another white man with a podcast. Who gives a shit? But with a Netflix budget, and we can't get Netflix specials.
You're pretty much just doing what we do, but trying to make it look like you have an authority.
Correct, and no jokes. We should learn from him.
Aye. Take away the jokes, add some more authority. You're Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Oh man, I think we actually do need to get into your sound check now.
Yeah, I got to get to my sound check. Thank you very much.
But thanks for the little post credits as well, because that was fun.
It's a pleasure.
We've got to fucking roast the coronation and talk and also tie up the loose ends about the censorship that we're talking about.
Yeah.
What a blast, man. Go see him at the Fringe.